Wavect, the Web3 software company that understands what you want.
Hi everyone, welcome at Wavect. Today with Daniela Merlano. I think most of you know her as the sunshine of Web3. She's currently head of the Web3 Academy at WEYU and also positive ambassador at the good Cactus Frens, which is NFT collection as far as I know, right? And she's also responsible for culture, purpose, and vision at Conspicuous. I hope I pronounced it correctly. And today we're going to talk about how to be actually truly fulfilled and purposeful when working in Web3. Thank you, Daniela, for being here and starting out. I would like to give you the opportunity to let us know whatever you want everyone on the show to know about you and your vision.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. I've had the opportunity to listen to a couple of other episodes on your podcast, and I feel it's very interesting. It thinks a little bit out of the blue, which I appreciate a lot for the other content that we can receive on Web3 nowadays. So as you were saying, I'm Daniela C. Merlano. I'm from Colombia, living in London, and I've been around for about 5 months by now. And I started bringing people together through what I call meaningful conversations, and that ends up being a mindful Web3. I believe that because we're in this early stage of a new technology development, but more than the technology, it's been moving a lot of souls around a culture development with no specific country or gender, just a more better world for all. And that's what actually grabbed me to wanted to grow and build and learn in the space, though I'm not a techie profile or finance profile. So very happy to starting this new opportunity as head of academy with you. I will be building a educational backbone for that brand to welcome more people from the masses, the ones that really don't know about this, and proficiency, the Web3 builders that are already around to kind of get more involved with what we are as a brand, but mostly learn that though the brand is very, very important for us, we want this to be meaningful and impactful in means of education first and people mindset first. And my passion project, my loving project, which is Conspicuous. I know it's not very easy to pronunciate, so don't worry about that. And what we do is that we are a well-being and mental health community, and we are wanting to spread the good, to highlight the good for more people to actually want to do good in the world. And the way we're doing that is creating events as sound and light and healing meditations in the metaverse. We also do a lot of like spaces and conversations. And we're building a safe space certificate, which is meant to be our way of teaching other builders how to keep a healthier community in means of how to make them safe, make them relate to each other nicely, how to deal with a mental health channel that has to be taken care of in a more serious way than just having it because it's nice. So yeah, that's what I've been about these days.
Awesome. I would be a little bit curious because always when someone has a real passion for something, right, there is usually some kind of reason for that. Do you have such a reason?
Yeah, so since I think 2 years or more ago, I was looking for that, what is my own life meaning, which means indistinct of the form. Now it took the form of Web3, and it's been like the most supported I've ever felt and listened to. But 2 years ago, I started thinking, I want to create a more empathic world. It's what I want to live for. And I want to do it in a way that can impact more people. So I've been walking that and understanding what is the brightest way of bringing that to life. But is down there indistinct of the form, if that makes sense. So it's a meaning that takes a form, not the other way around, not something I'm doing and then thinking of its meaning.
Mm-hmm. So you basically say it's truly coming from your heart, and there's nothing that actually just happened a few years ago that made you pursue that meaning?
Yeah, so of course it's very deep into who I am. That's also why I started building my content around mindful Web3, around purpose, around passion and courage, because I feel that when you place out the good, when you actually highlight the strengths, when you highlight ways of flourishing, which is also why I chose positive psychology as my backbone career, more people, it's contagious. More people would look like, hey, this exists, this can work, I want to try it out. And yeah, like definitely when like I've been in the look for my own meaning for more than 10 years, I think. But when I found positive psychology around 2017, I was 21. It was the first Latin American like generation of getting certified by positive psychology. And all of the people around me were like over 40, over 50. They already did a lot of stuff. And I was like, well, I'm here because my parents split up. I want to help my mom in a way that is not just taking points of the wrong. Like I know it's wrong. I just want to build something different from it. And I discovered this mindset. I discovered that there's science behind flourishing. There's science behind highlighting the goods and the effects of that positively in individual basis, but also as a collective efficacy. So I thought I just connected very deeply with that, and like communication wise, I could talk about it as a more empathic world since 2 years ago.
I love it. Okay, that's super cool. So there might be some people now. I there might be some people now that might ask, why should I care? Why
Yeah.
should I do something meaningful or creating an impact? What would you say?
So there's two reasons. My most important reason is, as one of the values in Conspicuous, to be good so we can do well, because definitely we're not alone in the world. That's also why I believe that Web3 community is listening to me, though I have not experienced and I come from nowhere, because I think they're really believing in a better world for all. But if we might not connect with that wholeness, it is highly important for ourselves. And this is one of the like really bright things that I found out in my master's research, when I actually had like 46% of participants from Web3, and it was how passion and the sense of meaning connects with us to find courage and actually take action to do more stuff in our life that we care about. And one of the most beautiful things there is that 93% of people talked about purpose, which meant almost everyone deep deep in their sense of well-being is caring about purpose. Um, a lot of theory around Martin Seligman, that you can look for it. He talks a lot about this perma concept called positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. And that was pretty much what I thought, like I want to see if this makes sense for just passion and wanting to do what you want to do in your work life. um so the answer for this is, you should care because it brings well-being. It's proven. You should care because it will bring you accomplishment, not just in reward. Reward is, I think 76% of people or so talked about reward, but not just financially, but the sense of impact. And bringing this to life through over, I think 40 people who answered my research is just a very few, it's like a very small way of calling for awareness that this matters, because for the people that are openly talking about this, is very strong, like life-changing event for their well-being. They feel more sense of positive emotions, just as joy, happiness, but also they build more resilience, which means they have more energy and they have more creative resources to go through challenges. And that's beautiful because life is not perfect. It will never be. We'll always get challenges that moves our emotions and our securities. Um, so having purpose and meaning brings a space and a mindset that gives you then courage and creativity and problem solving mindset to actually go ahead from challenges. And for so I believe live a better life in the long term. So yeah, I feel it's highly important.
100%. I think there are many examples when we, especially if we look at the traditional economy, right? There are these famous examples where people have millions or even billions on their bank account, right? But are actually highly depressed, right?
Yeah.
So basically, there should be always the question, why am I doing things? Why? So actually start with the
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. And there's these very there's like these three things around direction that helps enhance motivation, which are the purpose, which is the why that we're talking about, and where is that meaning coming from. And actually, Web3 and community building wise, I think this is my favorite to connect emotionally people of what we're doing and wanting to be there. So they feel part of it. The second one is vision. Vision is having a little roadmap, as they say, of where can this go, though it can change and can pivot, it brings hope. So passion with hope gets closer to action, gets closer to courage. And the third one is impact, contribution. So when you tell them why and where is this going and who can this possibly affect, the sense of team working and the collective efficacy of it, it grows. It's beautiful. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, especially when you talk about resilience, right? That is when it becomes super interesting, even from a purely financial and economic perspective for many people, right? But as you just said, in the end, right, you can't take any money with you. I think everyone knows that at this point. And that's actually quite a cool mindset, right? That many people are, I don't know if they are shifting from a statistical standpoint, but it really feels like, at least in our Web3 bubble, right?
Yeah.
That people want to have some kind of purpose or impact, right? So that's super cool. When you talk with, I don't know if you do coachings as well, for example,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
how would you start there, for example? How would you get someone to a point where they are empowered to be more fulfilled in their everyday work, for example?
Yes. So there's this, I do coaching sessions, and this is one of my favorite topics. The first thing I'd say is be patient because it's not going to happen in a month, if you don't know it, but become passionate because it is there, which means we all have it. We all there's resources that we all can understand what moves us from within. And what I tend to do at like a very first approach where I start is just doing the exercise of making this person close their eyes so they are with themselves, aware of just their thoughts and emotions, and start taking away the noise, which means forget about your family pressure if you have it, forget about what's good or wrong in your friend's perspective if you have it. Um, Put the money out of the equation, assuming you'll have it. Um, if these are off, and if you could create the job you'd love, what is there with you that connects you and have connected you in your whole life? So that's the first question. I've connected my whole life with people. It's just who I am, but or animals. There's people that have connected all their life with building stuff physically and they love it since they were children. There's people that always loved nature, or artists have that a lot as well. When you answer that question, you can then continue to, okay, how can this look like in a job, how my skills can connect with this. Um, so it's an ongoing process. And what I actually do is that I focus the first month just on understanding how this feels. Because when you get how it feels, when you get how it feels when you genuinely connect, you become more aware of where you do not want to connect, which means a lot of people keep their daily lives and their jobs because they are not aware of how disconnected that feels, because they forgot how does it feel to be connected, if that makes sense. And actually, because it's like there's research behind that multiplying performance, and performance not because people are happy, like that's one of the things of having good culture in this, like, work life, but performance because they're caring and they're connected, so they will have the will to voluntarily and freely go an extra mile to achieve goals. And freedom here is very important. But the point I was going to do is, if we want to have better economy, which means people working more efficiently and solving problems better, we gotta care about being aware of what moves them, what's the meaning for them, why they are there, and teaching them how to choose places that connect them with that, how to choose dynamics that connect them with that. And that, I feel, will be like a huge ingredient for a better economy, um, because it's
Mm-hmm.
people made. Like, I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, for me, you do. People will let us know in the comments, I assume.
Like, what?
No, super interesting. What I hear a lot from famous entrepreneurs, for example, many, really, a lot of them also swear on gratitude,
Yeah.
right? How does that come into play into all that things that we just discussed, basically?
Mm-hmm.
And are there some ways that you think would be a good approach to retain gratitude, right? Because there are difficult times ahead, always, right? Especially if you're working more risky jobs in terms of
Yeah.
entrepreneurship or in Web3 in general and so on, then that might be interesting.
Sure. And it's one of, as I say, the ingredients. So like gratitude is like salt. So it should go in very nice ways, but it should go. And in those means, especially in Web3, Web3 is filled, I feel, of highly passionate people. Most of us that are here is because we chose to be here. Like Web2 world is already more developed and there's a lot of options. So if we're here, it's because we want. We're curious enough to be here. Um, but does that not mean that we have not be placed in moments of fear, uncertainty, and doubt? And that will keep on more if we add the circumstance of the bear market and all of that, and like having all those ups and downs in different projects and all the noise around how the information is placed out there. And gratitude here places a fuel that will become into appreciation, will lower down anxiety, so we can have a more resilient state of mind. And it's very important to make a difference between gratitude and appreciation from reality versus toxic positivity. One of my favorite researchers around this is Susan David. Like, my most beautiful mix in life of listening to stuff that I like on podcast is Brené Brown, Susan David, and Simon Sinek recently. And they've got episodes together, of course. And especially in this toxic positivity, Susan David is very aware of being welcoming to our emotions. So we generate emotional agility, and gratitude is like that little tool we have to generate that, not because we are not accepting them, but because we're wanting to understand them. And appreciation is when we move a little step forward. So in gratitude, we're saying like, a like, thank you for this, pretty much, and trying to shift the perspective. Appreciation is really feeling connected with what's going on there. So for example, and that can be very hard, especially in challenge, like when you don't really get why something that you don't want is happening, or like you're in Web3 and bear market comes and you lost money and you're like I didn't want this to happen. But if you shift to gratitude and appreciation, you can start doing, for example, I did this in that moment. I suggested to some people to do a little jar of courage and a little jar of gratitude and appreciation, which meant every time we felt the abundance we have today, that will dial down the anxiety of what we lost because we can still appreciate what we have today. That will up level a little bit more the emotions of wanting to take action, of courage, of creating, of solving problems, of reorganizing our finances. And once again, go back to problem solving for so feeling better and reward and impact towards what's going on around ourselves. But I do this distinct between toxic positivity and gratitude, because it's not about saying I'm grateful because I lost. Like that can bring negation from I'm feeling fear because I'm caring about A, Y, Z. I'm feeling anxious because I'm unsure about answers on what can happen here, there, and there. And that is the most important information for actually knowing ourselves, knowing what to learn to actually move forward and see that as a journey. Am I making sense? Please
Yeah.
do double click if something doesn't make sense.
Yeah, in general, it should be always the journey, right? If
Yeah.
you only have the goal in mind, then it's much harder to be resilient, right? People tend to be focused on the negative things. I think it's maybe even evolutionary, right? Because if something bad happens, if your child gets eaten by an animal, you should remember that, right? For the next one, in best case. So that's definitely super interesting, and in an environment where we have these artificial dangers, right? This is actually contradicts what we have learned by evolution, right? So that's definitely maybe even the reason why it's so difficult, right?
Yeah, and something very interesting you just said there is like it is so easy to go on the reptile brain, like on the fight or flight sense of it's risky, I felt uncomfortable, I felt fear, I felt sad, so I'll run away from it and learn that it doesn't work. But that's also why I keep calling to mindful, because mindful is not like I don't use it that much for the sense of like the Zen side of it, which I believe in meditation greatly, but more in the aware side of it. The information is what keeps us moving forward and evolving. And as you were saying before, that's also something very interesting I found about the Web3 community, because we're already open to technology evolvement. They are building that some of us around culture evolvement. They're open also to start learning about how to manage and learn from themselves and relate to themselves and other in a different way. But we do need to pay attention to the information of the journey. If we don't, we're just rushing into conclusions out of emotions that we did not really understand.
100%. When we talk about all these kind of things, right? Are there some specific, let's say, processes, patterns, strategies, or anything that you that the listeners actually could do, right? After that podcast, are there some things that they could start doing, thinking, I don't know, to get a more positive state of mind?
Yes. There's two exercises that have helped me a lot through this journey, through the Web3 journey specifically. Like I've been in all of the emotions really. First is keeping on my why, which means choose one sentence, 5 words, 6 words, that doesn't mind that much for oneself, that makes sense. So when you are in fear, uncertainty, and doubt, you can create from there. you can remember that to lower down the anxiety and like those emotions, those hard emotions, and write down. So for the ones who likes to draw, there's this very beautiful exercise where you actually paint a double-faced figure. One figure is the ones of the emotions that are hard to handle, and the other figure are the emotions that you want to make decisions from. So for example, I had in my like in the hard emotions, I had fear, uncertainty, and doubt a lot, but I wanted to make decisions from gratitude and love because I know it brings a better mindset for me and it makes me more creative. So I would write down what is making me feel this way so I could actually place into my awareness from that information what is actually on my hands so I can act on them. And if I would act on them from love and gratitude and appreciation, what would those actions look like? If you don't have the answer for that when you sit down to do it, it's okay. Try it out the next day. Something might come. And that's very important. That's like the reactive way of, okay, I'm in this state, this can help. Proactive ways is keep on your habits. Remember the PERMA. Remember that you need to feel to feed all the sides of yourself. And there's another beautiful way of that positive psychology looks into this, which is SPIRE. So SPIRE means write down or think for yourself what is one thing that you can do in your life for 5 to 10 minutes in your day that will feed your spiritual side, your physical side. That does not necessarily mean running 5K every day. That can be drinking water every morning, and it's that easy as long as it's genuine. Your intellectual side, something you enjoy learning, and that will also connect a lot with what it's meaningful for you and what you could work for in a more purposeful way. And so it's spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational. So call a friend 10 minutes while you're walking, or if you're going from your bedroom to the kitchen, just say hi to someone. Hey, I want to say hi. That's more than enough to start feeding those sides of yourself. And finally, emotion. For emotion, I do love the gratitude exercises. Just find one thing you feel grateful for the day you had or you will have, and one specific something you would like to achieve that day. So you can be grateful again in the morning, in the evening. It's small habits that counts in the long term. So when challenges come, as if you were exercising every day and then you run a 5K and feel easier than if you don't exercise at all, emotional wise, it's the same. If you have little habits for each side of yourself every day, when challenges comes, you have resources to deal with them differently in a more healthy way for yourself and for others.
Love
Did
it.
I answer the question?
Yeah, definitely. So in general, it needs to be mindful, right?
Yes.
What I have learned, I'm trying, also I had a couple of startups in the past, right? And I went on that journey as well. Otherwise, you're melting down, right? But things I tried were writing down 3 things I'm grateful every day and all that kind of stuff, right? Reading mantras and so on. But what I discovered, and that's what you perfectly said, is you really need to take the time, right? Not just reading the mantras fast or not just writing down some random things you're grateful for, but really feeling it, right? Because at some point, I got even stressed at 5 a.m. in the morning and read that in a couple of seconds, wrote it on the way to the restroom, and that's it. Right? So,
like, okay, check.
Yeah. So basically just a to-do list, right? Which made it even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always about mindfulness, and that's what I really...
Totally, an intention.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying before, I just popped some examples there, but part of the brightness of doing so is what you need is to keep in mind to feed them. I know I have to feed my children. I can learn on the way what they like most. It's the same with yourself. So as you were saying, there's a lot of people that, as much as I love meditation, it does not work for them, and that's okay. But if they're curious enough and they know they have to feed that side of themselves, they might find something that works better for them in the moment they're at that moment. And that's what we are caring more the most. So it's definitely, as in everything, hopefully in life, about being mindful and with an intention, being clear in the intention. Because if not, once again, jumping into conclusions and like you the journey's lost.
Yeah, 100%. Yep, based on that, right? When we think, for example, if you meditate, you do all these exercises, what I've read and also discovered myself is that if you do all these things, it may be even with intent, right? You still need to structure your day in a way that you don't basically contradict that lifestyle, right? Because
Yeah.
otherwise it's just a water drop on a hot stone or something like that, right? And so basically that brings me to all these kind of things can make you fulfilled, right?
Yeah.
Just from a pure term perspective, maybe it could be interesting because many people are also talking about happiness itself, right? Do you think, from your opinion, that this is the same, or is it just one of those components? Is it?
No. I think happiness should not be the goal. Happiness is just part of the journey. Um, Before I used to talk more about peace because I can feel sad peacefully. Um, I can feel mad peacefully, and peacefully means without, yeah, like without losing it because of the emotion. And I am a huge believer that all emotions are here to create and accompany us, but we should not marry any of them because they will create states that might not be healthy either, even happiness. Like if you're just happy all the time, you might find yourself in a comfort zone that won't bring you evolution either. You can be peaceful and maybe get to understand your emotions through it, and you can keep yourself the healthier in a good state of emotion. That does not mean being happy every day. And I think that's canceling a little bit and putting too much pressure of needing to have a perfect life for oneself or like creating something that that it's to just to a higher expectation of what I feel that the world and life is anyways. Like if we don't have challenges, if we don't have difficult stuff around, um, we are not growing. But having a more peaceful emotional state might bring less pressure to that, might make us do like better decisions so we can build brighter and healthier for us, and that becomes less problems, yes. But still there's many things that will be out of our hands, um, that will bring us emotion. So I just believe that happiness is great part of the journey, is moments that we have to cherish a lot. And when I started meditating, actually, I heard this from Chopra, which is very, very, very famous. I went the mainstream way there, first Chopra.
Why
And he
not?
said he had this story about emotions, about the really difficult ones and the very, very nice to feel ones. And the phrase that stuck with me was, "This too shall pass." So when it's really, really hard, think through it, learn from the journey, be aware, be mindful, because this too shall pass. It'll be okay. But when you're joyful and enjoying and energetic and things are going greatly and there's best news everywhere, my family is great, my friends are great, I love my job, be grateful, appreciate, learn from it, because this too shall pass. You'll have a challenge. Um, so I thought it was just a very bright way of keeping you centered from toxic positivity once again. And just that's also why I call from empathy and compassion. Because as for you, but for others, this too shall pass. If someone has a bad day and is kind of tough to you, doesn't make it okay. You have to set limits, but it'll pass for him. He might have a bad day too. Um, yeah.
I didn't know that saying, to be honest, but I really like it. What all that now also reminded me of a very popular quote is, become comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? So basically, as you just said, being happy all the time brings you nowhere, right?
Yeah.
You also should pursue challenges.
Yeah, that's my point of view also. Like I might say like maybe someone in comments is like, I want to be happy. And yeah, like it's just points of view. Yeah, it's just points of view. But I do feel that when you are uncomfortable is where magic happens. That's where my Web3 magic happened too.
Yeah, just keep going. You're really already a big name, Daniela.
Not yet.
You are on the best way. So really amazing. Thank you, Daniela, for everything. Do you maybe have 3 key takeaways you want people to remember from this awesome session?
Yeah, be mindful. Whatever you do, try to ask why you're doing and where's the information of what you're feeling around it. Second, be compassionate with yourself. This too shall pass. And last but not least, try to remember your whole being, but it's okay if you don't do everything every day. Just keep that in mind.
Awesome. Love it. Hey, thanks, Daniela. Again, was a pleasure talking with you. And thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thank you so much for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Likewise. Hey.
Wavect, the Web3 software company that understands what you want.